Only an alert and knowledgeable citizen can compel the proper making of the huge industrial and military machinery of defense with our peaceful methods and goals, so that security and liberty may prosper together.
And with that sound, we're back on the air again. Welcome back. It's Radio Free Canada. Hi there, I'm Darren Howard.
Hi, I'm Robert Nisbet.
We've got another action-packed hour as we start taking on 37 different stories that we didn't cover in the first hour. But the legal portion of the program, once again, everything you're about to hear is only our opinion. Please don't get bent out of shape about our opinion.
And everything we say is protected under Section 2 of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms.
Until Stephen Harper gets his way, of course, we will be presenting media as protected under international fair usage guidelines. So, guys, lawyers, pay attention. We're covering all of our P's and Q's. And talking about P's and Q's, the real legal portion of the program. If
you're an in-the-box kind of thinker.
If you're one of those people who thinks that we need more rules because you just don't trust your neighbor.
If you think building more jails makes us safer.
Yes, if you think more laws are going to make things better in a town with 10,000 bylaws, or you think McDonald's is a restaurant.
Or privatizing our utilities is a good idea.
Yeah, well, please stop listening now. We want you to stop listening because you think we suck. Please don't think that we suck. Join the revolution. Have your consciousness wake up. Wake yourself up. Wake up your neighbor. Wake up your friend. And be part of what's going on around the world right now while we shed off greed and warfare and start taking care of our neighbor, which is what we should be doing anyways.
That is the golden rule, right?
Yeah, it is. This guy named Jesus talked about feeding the poor and not killing people. Apparently, that's being ignored worldwide. We would like to see that happen. Okay, coming up in the next hour, we're going to be mocking the fact that Fox News wants to sue the South Park boys for blasphemy. We're also going to... I just love saying that. A news station wants to talk about blasphemy with South Park. China and Japan have been in the news lately. We've got the real story about that one.
We're also going to be talking about the Occupy movement's 1-year anniversary.
Yeah, that came and went, and major news, of course, ignored it, just like they ignored the original one. And we've got to run, coming up in the first part of the hour, we're going to talk about the way Monsanto gets his butt handed to it, and we're going to talk about Enbridge, because oil pipelines are being put through for no reason whatsoever. I mean, for no reason. Remember, the government wants to ship away all our raw resources and not create any jobs with them. It's the reason why they put logs inside steel crates so you can't see them. It's the reason why they're putting a pipeline through from the oil sands.
Yes, because we don't need those jobs here. And we don't need to stop, exporting oil and keep burning fossil fuels just because, the polar ice cap is melting way faster than anybody ever anticipated.
We've got it, too. And also, we're going to be mocking Stephen Harper coming up on Monday with a Mock Harper Monday segment just for you and your entertainment. It's Radio Free Canada, baby. Welcome to the winning team, because activism is winning. But for those of you part of the conservative government who are just so scared of your neighbors, you're a fearful individual, we've got a solution for you.
Yes, we do.
Do you suffer from fear? Are you terrified that voters will discover you've done nothing to improve their lives? Maybe it's time you talk to your spin doctor about Incarcerex. In clinical trials, Incarcerex has been shown effective at reducing election-related anxieties by making voters think you're doing something about the drug problem. It's simplistic and fast-acting. If your problems continue or get worse, you can always double or triple your dose of Incarcerex. Whether it's addiction, therapeutic use, or just casual use, there's an Incarcerex plan for every Canadian. Best of all, taxpayers, not you, will foot the bill. So talk to your spin doctor about Incarcerex today. Common side effects include loss of civil liberties, police corruption, racial injustice, increased terrorism, spread of HIV and AIDS, and violent crime. Bloated prisons are also a common side effect. Stop taking Incarcerex if bloating lasts longer than 20 years. If you're trying to balance the budget, keep families together, or protect human rights, Incarcerex may not be right for you. Do not mix Incarcerex with the Charter or common sense. So start taking Incarcerex and keep pretending you're doing something about the drug problem.
Man, that is so bang on the money. And for a Friday, an awesome Friday, we're looking forward to major ice cold ones at the end of today. We got to bring a smile to the revolution. Remember, if you're all uptight all the time, nobody's listening to you, and you're not going to get any anyways, make sure you develop a very large life outside of activism. You know, get self-sustaining. Start learning how to sew. Learn how to bake. Learn how to do everything that major corporations are doing for you right now. You'll feel better.
Yes, because we don't want to be a nation of takers.
No, nation of consumers is just not working anywhere. Of course, I am Darren Howard.
And I am Robert Nisbet.
And we are bringing you Radio Free Canada, the fastest 2 hours in talk radio. We've got an update right... do you think we should do this right now?
Well, people may be wondering what happened to the case involving the largest environmental disaster in history that seems to have dropped off the radar completely.
And I mean completely. Let's run a clip real quick here. Just talking about BP, back in the news again. Radio Free.
So you guys, great news! The Department of Justice has finally decided to come out and accuse BP of gross negligence for the Deepwater Horizon explosion that killed 11 people and subsequent oil spill that pumped 200 million gallons of crude oil into the Gulf of Mexico for 3 months. The DOJ brief was filed in the Court of Louisiana, where BP is in the process of settling $7.8 billion in civil damages for Gulf residents. Well, you might be saying, oh, awesome! After more than 2 years, the government's finally taking a hard line against the corporation responsible for the worst environmental crisis in history. Well, funny thing is that it's been known since the beginning that BP was criminally negligent. The commission that investigated the spill said BP and its cement contractor, good old Halliburton, knew that the mixture used in the well construction was faulty and would allow oil leaks. In fact, they not only knew it, but they purposefully cut corners in every way to save costs. But all of this obvious criminal negligence aside, at least the Gulf is totally fine now, right?
We're paying for all spill-related cleanup costs, and we've established a $500 million fund so independent scientists can study the Gulf's wildlife and environment for 10 years.
But it's okay. BP's paying for all the legitimate cleanup costs and doing environmental impact studies, guys, because we all know how reasonable it is to trust a criminal corporation to hold themselves accountable. Like how after the spill, instead of focusing on legitimate cleanup efforts, BP sprayed a highly toxic dispersant called Incarcerex all over the Gulf to thin out the oil particles to make it look like there was less oil than there really was. Now, Incarcerex is actually banned from other countries, including the UK, for being too toxic and also less effective for cleaning up oil. But that didn't stop BP. They were so desperate for good PR that they sprayed this poison all over the Gulf, making the oil spread and even causing it to congeal into tar balls. Not to mention the residents in the Gulf who have respiratory illnesses due to their inhaling the dispersant. Also, BP hired jail inmates at slave labor wages to clean up the Gulf. I wish I were joking, but I'm not. While Gulf residents were struggling with how to continue their livelihoods amidst the economic catastrophe, BP didn't even reach out to the community to offer cleanup jobs. Instead, it's much cheaper to hire prisoners. The company dressed prisoners up like BP workers and put them to 12-hour day labors, cleaning up the toxic tar balls on the Gulf shores to maximize goodwill for all those photo ops. Then, when journalists started to ask questions about the cleanup efforts and the extent of the damages, BP hired a private security firm called Talon to keep those pesky reporters off the beaches. How dare the journalists try to shed light on the reality and the severity of what BP had unleashed on public beaches? They should know better. But once again, at least the government's coming down hard on BP for all their misdeeds, right? Well, actually, just the opposite. Since this disaster, their criminality has continued to be rewarded with more government contracts. According to Bloomberg, in the year following the explosion and spill, BP was awarded with over $7 billion in Pentagon oil contracts. In fact, they're still the largest supplier of oil to the Pentagon. So why would they care about fulfilling their commitment to the Gulf when they can just keep cashing their checks from the same government that's coming out to wag their finger at the corporation for their negligence? Look, BP is responsible for irreversibly polluting the world's oceans and causing a holocaust of hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of sea creatures, not to mention the dead coral zones. The effects of this disaster are still being felt today, and the impact will be unknown for decades to come. It's time that we call out these corporations and their criminal CEOs for their complete and utter disregard for humanity. We need to start calling out the politicians who not only turn a blind eye, but actually reward this criminality. This two-tier justice system needs to end. It needs to end right now before the entire planet is destroyed for all future generations.
Man, did you get that one right? That was right on the money. Radio Free Canada bringing you truth and freedom right here out of the sunny Okanagan. We head into a rather interesting fall, I would say.
I would say so. The world is living in very, very interesting times.
It's too bad that local news editors do not have the internet, but that's why we're here. We're here to siphon through all the stories about Justin Bieber, all those stories about royalty. And remember, royalty doesn't count. If you're a royal worshiper, you should probably tune out too. I mean, these leeches have no place in Canadian society. But we've got the CBC and Maclean's that say they do.
Or any society, to be fair.
We're going to be right back. We've got to take a really quick network break right now, and we are going to come back talking about Hillary. Oh, Hillary, my favorite one. It's Radio Free Canada. 2 minutes. Okay? Okay. Is this working? Somebody get this working. Oh, no.
The morning was cold and lonely, city lights old and gray. The sun arose and tried to smile, and gave it all away. The honky-tonk called the stranger couldn't pay the bill. Made a stand, raised his hand, sang a song, no time to kill. I said, hey, 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 Peter, got a tale to tell. Just been down in New York town. It really feels like hell. It really feels like hell. Billy was out of fashion. Manhattan was years ago. Yesterday he wasted time. Money was kinda slow. Billy had friends of glory. Billy was friends of fame. Took a chance, raised his hand, sang a song, now he's back in the game. I said, hey, 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 Peter.
You got to get on there. Hey, St. Peter. It's Flash in the Pan that's gone back a few years. I'm loving that song.
You're sticking to that F theme, aren't you?
Yeah, it is. It's F today.
Yes.
Because we have a flying F and we are making sure that we are expressing it right now.
And the world is pretty effed up.
Yeah, you know. So making sure that all the conservatives right now are going, they don't have to use that language or whatever.
Oh, get over it.
Get over it. Grow up. This is, you know what, honestly, when we get into the bar, when we start talking about this, I'm going to speak my mind. I'm going to say exactly what's on my mind because you know what? It's time. Wake up, okay? People got to wake up. We've got to get out of this consumer mentality. Self-sustainability, municipal sustainability is possible. So on Monday, we're delivering a letter to each and every councillor right here in town, and we're going to film it, and we're going to deliver a letter to our mayor, and we're going to film it, and we're going to show you the way that democracy does not work.
Yes, we'll show you how it works. Does not work on the municipal level.
No. But on the international level, my favorite. Let's just run the clip. I just want to mock
this
this
is
for a
Hillary.
second.
Yeah.
Yes, I know.
Today, many Americans are asking, indeed, I asked myself, how could this happen? How could this happen in a country we helped liberate, in a city we helped save from destruction? This question reflects just how complicated and at times how confounding the world can be.
Yes, the world is a very complicated and confounding place, Hillary. They may be angry in the Middle East because you keep bombing them.
And you know, the real thing about it right here in your backyard, and I want you to pay attention to this, we do not see streams of people from local churches standing up against warfare. Okay?
No.
They're not saying we need diplomacy. They're not saying we need peace. They're not even saying don't kill people. That's the amazing thing that you see the local conservatives in Kelowna, British Columbia, Canada is like the nexus of conservative mentality. It is offensive.
I know.
And the lack of culture here in town is just phenomenal. Anybody from Europe, anybody from Africa or Asia sees it. It's just Toastville.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like dry toast people. I love that. Believe it or not, I watched this chick flick, My Great Big Greek Wedding.
Oh, really?
My Great Big Fat Greek Wedding. I love that show. It just made me laugh, but that's what he says. These people are toast people. They have no enema. They have no heart. They have no soul, but they sure do have uptight opinions.
That they do.
You know, let people starve to death because it looks better.
Yeah.
I feel better myself because my streets look better.
Yeah, okay. I know. You're looking for other things outside yourself to make you feel happy. You know,
lunacy.
The mainstream media keeps spinning the idea that the Muslims are upset because of a blasphemous 14-minute trailer that was released on the internet.
I know. The mainstream media thinks it's trying to hype this out that it's something to do with the mini movie. They got 300 views before they translated it into Arabic.
Yeah.
Okay, and it is such a non-story, but they hype the heck out of it.
But that story has created a reaction from the right-wing talking heads at Fox so-called News.
I love it.
Well, you bring up a very good point, and look, just going back to events just here in the past week, where we have seen the administration come out and say, we condemn anyone who denigrates the religious faith, and they came out and they, in regards to this anti-Muslim film. Well, that's well and good, but my question is, when has the administration condemned the anti-Christian films that are coming out of Hollywood? Where are the federal investigations into shows like South Park, which has denigrated all faiths? Where is the outrage when people of the Christian faith are subjected to this humiliation that's coming out of Hollywood? You have to let people know what's going on in the country. These stories they're stacked up on my desk right now. The numbers of instances of people who have been facing attack because of their faith in Jesus Christ.
It's called rightwingwatch.org. Rightwingwatch.org is just... Okay, these guys, attacks on Christianity, they're waging a crusade right now, and they're saying, we've got attacks against Christianity.
Because, Hollywood is so liberal.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Or you got to say it like a Republican. Liberal.
We read that clip a little while ago, and it said how to talk like a Republican, or how to talk like a warmonger, or how to talk like a right-winger.
Well, we may recall, though, that South Park did have a few things to say about a lot of religion, like Mormonism. That's an awesome show.
If you ever want to see it, see South Park Explains Mormons. Okay, do that on your search engine. Dum. Okay. Some things happened last week, too, that were very interesting that Major News did ignore.
Oh, yes. There was a one-year anniversary of a little movement called Occupy Wall Street.
Was it? And I think we got time before the break. We're just going to run this clip real quick because I just want to cover this real quick. Occupy back in gear again.
To talk more about the Occupy movement and where it stands on its one-year anniversary, artist Molly Crabapple, who was arrested at yesterday's protest, joins us now. Molly, welcome. So tell us, what led up to your arrest?
So I've been involved with Occupy Wall Street for about a year. I live across the street from Zuccotti Park, and I've been doing protest posters and going to marches. However, I'm the biggest wuss in the world and always stay on the sidewalk and never engage in the acts of civil disobedience that so many other people do. This time, I was just walking on the sidewalk when an officer grabbed me by the arm, pulled me into the center of the street, and arrested me.
So you were saying you were just minding your own business and a police officer arrested you apparently for no reason?
Exactly. So we were walking across Pine Street and the cops had blocked off a road and were directing people to the other side of the street. I saw police officers in front of me grabbing the arms of women, and at first I thought that they were just trying to, sort of control the flow of traffic of people. But then I realized that what they were doing was pulling us into the center of the street and arresting us.
And what were you charged with?
We were charged with obstructing traffic.
Okay, so this happened to you yesterday. Kind of stepping back and looking at the bigger picture and the way the protest played out, how would you describe them?
Occupy was something I think a lot of people didn't believe could happen in America. I, like many other people, was incredibly inspired by the London student protests, by the people in Tahrir Square, but at first I was skeptical. I thought Americans were too apathetic for that. Occupy proved that they weren't. Over the last year, we've seen incredible acts of bravery and solidarity on the part of Occupy, and also extreme police repression. You have to remember that every time they arrest people, we're being locked in cells from 10 to 42 hours, in cold, overcrowded cells. And just the arrest itself is a punitive measure.
And would you say, it sounds like in your situation that you didn't do anything to provoke it, that you were just arrested for no reason. Did you see Occupy protesters being violent or provoking police or giving them a reason? I mean, dozens and dozens of people were arrested. I guess I'm trying to figure out why.
I didn't see any acts of violence. Sometimes at Occupy protests, you see people sitting in the center of streets as an act of civil disobedience, but this in no way could be construed as being violent. It's people, very often, elderly people, sitting down.
Interesting. Molly, so here we are at the one-year anniversary. What would you say is Occupy Wall Street's its signature achievement?
I think that before Occupy Wall Street, the way that political campaigns were run was almost about, the personality quirks of the candidates. What Occupy did was it brought economic equality and inequality to the forefront of the national dialogue. It made people actually talk about what was happening economically in America and how what was going on here wasn't really even capitalism. It was this bizarre form of feudalism where the government and the corporation were kind of melded together.
And you're saying that is now part of the dialogue. Do you now see it as becoming, playing an important role in the upcoming presidential election?
I do. I think a lot of the pushback to Mitt Romney comes from people who maybe wouldn't consider themselves sympathetic with Occupy, but were influenced by that sort of change in tone.
Interesting, Molly. And going back, you were arrested. Over 180 people reportedly were arrested. Ultimately, what do you think that says about the state of our police force today and free speech?
I think that the right to freedom of assembly right now is kind of a joke. When you live in a country where you see, elderly people, kids, just people minding their own business plucked off of the sidewalk and arrested, that's not a country with freedom of assembly. I think that with Occupy, a lot of people like me who are, relatively privileged middle-class white people are learning what people of color and poor people and other marginalized groups have learned for a long time, that the police force is not your friend. They're quite against you, and they're not there to protect your freedoms.
All right, Molly, really appreciate you coming on the show. Stay safe out there while you're protesting. That was artist Molly Crabapple.
Russia Today bringing the story once again that major news refuses to cover. And Russia Today suffered the benefit from that. 300 million hits for Russia Today.
That's right.
3 million hits for CNN. And, people are turning to Castanet. Big thumbs down for Kelly Hayes for leaving Castanet and for going to CHBC. I mean, talking about a reduction in viewership. Okay?
Yeah, well, he's got to go where the salary is. Now, one interesting thing that's occurred in the past year, New York Police Department alone has made more than 1,800 arrests from the Occupy movement.
1,800?
Yeah.
Hang on a second. We got to take a quick break. We do. Got a few bills to pay, so I want you to get informed about what's going on, and we're going to come right back about 2 minutes, okay? So just hang on.
Ein Punker unterliegt in der großen Stadt. Es war ihm wie dahin liebten alle Frauen und jede rief, na kann man Rock Me Amadeus. Er war Superstar, er war populär, er war so exaltiert, because er hatte Flair. Er war ein Virtuose, war ein Rockidol und alles rief, na kann man Rock Me Amadeus tun. Es war um 1780 und es war in Wien. No Plastic Money anymore, die Banken gegen ihn. Woher die Schulden kamen, war wohl jedermann bekannt. Er war ein Mann der Frauen, Frauen liebten seinen Punk. Er war ein Superstar, er war so populär, er war zu exaltiert, genau das war sein Flair. Er war ein Virtuose, war ein Rockidol und alle suchten noch heute Captain Rock Me Amadeus.
Well, we had to jump into that break real quick. Our apologies to everyone for running so late on that break. Rock Me Amadeus, a little bit of vinyl left over. Rock Me the Occupy World, totally rocking my world.
That's right. You know, they aren't planning more than just this 1 3-day program they had going too.
And you know, you got to pay attention to that. This week we did a happy birthday Occupy right down in City Park. We stood there. We had 6 people show up. Okay, you know, throughout about an hour that we stood out there. TV ignored us altogether, didn't even come and report it.
No.
But there was an actual reason why we did what we did. And we're going to be explaining that when we come out with Inside Occupy Kelowna, which is going to be our next documentary coming up on Radio Free Canada. And make sure you pay attention to some of the releases that we have coming up on our YouTube channel and soon to be. We're going to go on the internet in the big world. But our most important thing is to get people motivated to do it themselves.
That's right.
Go out and get informed, realize activism works. Now,
speaking of activism, now the Occupy movement has inspired a lot of groups to get out there and start talking about issues that are really important.
I know.
And there's been another offshoot of Occupy called Occupy Monsanto. They also held a demonstration in New York.
So I think the Monsanto headquarters is nearby.
Yeah, we've received a report that we've got some biohazardous activity going on in this building at 1300 I Street. A Monsanto affiliate, I believe it's a lobbying group involved in injecting biogenetically engineered policy into our federal government. So we need to go investigate.
Yup, yo, just hold your fist high. We're a unified tribe, we unite for rights, plus the fight we deny beauty and light, searching for a spiritual height, that's the fight.
Today, all over the world, people are protesting this company's genetically modified products. Patenting genetically modified seeds is a business model for the 1%. It's a business model for the 1% to control the seeds in the United States and worldwide, at the expense of the 99% who are eaters.
Monsanto has been the biggest dealer of a type of agriculture that damages the earth, pollutes the environment, and requires the importation of pesticides. All these things go into our food system.
Occupy Monsanto is here to say you're shut down today. You're shut down like they did in California last week. Except now it's going to happen at more and more of your facilities.
Just hold your fist high. We're a unified tribe. We unite for rights, plus the fight we deny beauty and light, searching for
Occupy-Monsanto.com is where you want to go and get informed with those guys and what they're doing. But I want my cornflakes back. That's my statement. Big GMO controversy locally. Get a hold of Heidi Osterman over at truefoodfoundation.org, and she's going to get you informed. Make sure you get involved with Occupy Monsanto. No more GMOs. What's the one on Facebook, too, the big one?
Truefoods.org? No.
I can't remember.
Millions Against Monsanto.
Yeah, Millions Against Monsanto. Get informed about what's going on. There are solutions. Change the way that you're doing it, and I hate to say it, look it up. Find out that you're not going to be eating your Doritos. You're not going to be eating cornflakes. Okay?
I'm sad to say.
You know, until they get their act together. Remember, Asia and Europe, those governments protect their citizens against Monsanto's GMOs. The Canadian and American government do not protect you from GMOs. They won't even allow them to be labeled in the grocery store.
Well, that's because Monsanto et al. Have very large lobbying firms to prevent that from occurring.
Now, coming up, the French government. Okay, so they're in it.
They're in it, yeah.
Okay, so what's this?
This is about GM corn.
In Brussels, thousands of protesters have hit the streets calling for an overhaul of European food policy. The rally came as a new French study claimed rats fed GM corn produced by US firm Monsanto had suffered tumours and multiple organ damage. Opponents of genetically modified food demanded an urgent review of the EU's current policy. Those in the food industry who said there wasn't a risk lied. They didn't tell people the truth. Europe's independent food agencies now have to act. It's absolutely essential that we kickstart the debate and re-examine GM food. The new evidence shows how dangerous GM crops are for human health.
Tout à fait incroyable qui montre le danger des OGM pour la santé humaine.
But other experts not involved in the research were highly sceptical of the French study's findings. Inside the EU Commission, Euronews asked officials what they might do. If this evidence is correct, isn't it now time to extend all GM studies beyond 3 months? If this is proved and based on sound scientific evidence, then the European Commission will obviously act accordingly. US food giant Monsanto has so far not responded to the French study's claims, though it has repeatedly said in the past that its products are safe.
And, you know, there's at truefoodfoundation.org, they point you towards Genetic Roulette, a textbook that talks about the tumors and intestinal problems caused by genetically modified food.
That's right.
And, you know, it's science. It's provable, proven science from conservative scientists and researchers that GMOs are bad for you.
They're a ticking time bomb.
But the number one thing about GMOs is that they did not raise crop yields and they did not feed people cheaper with a better product. That's what they were saying.
No, they created super bugs and super weeds.
Yeah. See, you made things worse. Antibiotics, you know, okay, we know the trend there. That things get stronger. Now they've got worms that are resistant to Roundup.
Yeah.
Okay, that just Mother Nature looks at you and laughs and goes, oh, you thought you were going to be clever, didn't you?
Yeah.
Okay, but the government of France behaving like the Harper government.
Yes.
Listen, okay, make up your own mind.
Yes, problem, reaction, solution, right?
Yeah.
French Prime Minister Jean-Marc Ayrault says he's prepared to call for a wider European ban on genetically modified produce following an alarming new study that throws the safety of the food into doubt. The report claimed that 200 rats fed GM corn produced by US firm Monsanto had suffered tumours as big as ping pong balls. Ayrault has ordered that the scientific validity of the study be checked by the country's health watchdog. So far, Monsanto has not responded to the findings. But scientist Joel Spiro has called for new rules on GM foods. Current regulation tests are conducted over 3 months, but the really serious diseases, such as the death of rats due to tumours, occurs only in the 4th month. Therefore, these tests give no real information about the effects of genetically modified food on health over a lifetime. The study has also been forwarded to the European Food Safety Authority. Currently, 46 varieties of GM products are allowed in the EU. They include corn, cotton and canola oil varieties and one type of potato and beetroot.
Okay, so
bad news for Monsanto all over the place.
It's like global warming, though. Okay, we have to check the validity of the science. You have scientists across the world saying that genetically modified food is bad for you.
Yeah.
And then the French government turns around, just like the Harperites. Oh, we have to check the science because that science doesn't agree with the bankers who are profiting from the 1%.
Yes, and Monsanto's asking, well, if GM foods are so bad, why are humans dropping like flies?
And it turns out that humans are dropping like flies.
Yeah, well.
Nobody is reporting all of the... Okay, we used to get major statistics about what diseases and what afflictions we got. Long-form census out the door because they're not interested in your health.
And don't forget how good the American healthcare system is.
Oh, man. Coming up, we are going to be doing this, and coming up at the broadcast in the future right here at Radio Free Canada as we expose our brand new formats and start unleashing them on the internet. We're going to be starting to talk about and get people like Heidi Osterman in studio to talk about GMOs and what you can do to start fragging their system.
That's right.
Okay? But remember, Kellogg's, unfortunately, is no longer your friend.
No.
Yeah, okay.
Kind of like the police.
Yeah, we'll be talking about police brutality, let me tell you. Coming up on future shows, we're going to be talking about the Pakistani add-on to your car that's going to be able to convert your modern car to water power.
That's right.
$400, your car runs on water. It's coming up later on. We got to take it. Oh, we got to get back. We're sitting here talking about it, that we get to present so much cool information here. And, it must be depressing as a major news editor knowing that you cannot write a good story about a native treaty, negotiation. You're not allowed.
Yeah, well, I saw an interview with a New York Times reporter the other day talking about the Bosnian conflict and how he was heavily censored by the New York Times.
And it's the New York Times.
Yeah, well, they're just a mouthpiece for the Pentagon and the government anyway.
Yeah, we're seeing it quite a bit. And if you take a look at the, CBC.
Same thing.
I mean, not sure they skate around this or skate around that, but the fact that you're not informed by the CBC that banks make money up out of nowhere, the Royal Bank makes money up out of nowhere, where's your credibility?
Or the fact that people are starving to death, it's not because there's not enough food, it's because of commodities gambling.
Yeah. the way Walmart, drives your grocery prices up. It got so bad in Egypt, it's $20 a loaf of bread. Okay, that's for real. Talking about driving down the value of your currency. That part of what they are protesting in Tel Aviv about this.
Kind of like what the Fed is doing with dumping $40 billion a year to the banks to devalue the currency. A month, sorry.
$40 billion of fake currency dumped into their economy.
To infinity and beyond.
I feel like a cartoon character at points, and it is like I'm taking crazy pills here.
Well, I don't know how the Fed chairman keeps his job. He keeps getting it wrong.
But all you have to do is own every media outlet that there is and make sure they don't talk about what the real story is.
I think they got a gun up to the administration's head saying, "We'll kill the economy if you don't let us do what we want."
The economy that's out there right now around the world, and we're going to be talking about the way Iceland fired its prime minister, jailed the bankers. Okay, Iceland did it. They didn't suffer the way the major media said they would.
Actually, they're doing quite well.
They're doing better than us. As simple as that. And they're not a third world country that just ships out raw resources like the Harper government ensures or the Christy Clark government ensures.
No, I think we want to follow the U.S. model and export war and financial products or something like that.
Also, coming up on Monday's show, we're going to be talking about exporting our jobs and the fact, Christy Clark, no democracy in British Columbia.
No, not
we're
at all.
done.
We're done.
We have 40 some odd days in the legislature for all of 2012. She canceled the fall legislature. This is a story that we're going to be putting together for Monday's show, talking about democracy gone. History in British Columbia right now, thanks to Christy Clark and her Liberals.
Her Liberals.
Yes, quote unquote. Let's take a smile for a second here, because I got to smile. This is funny.
News
Check this out.
in a nutshell. In the news today is nukes. Deep underground in the heart of the Middle East lies a secret nuclear weapons program hidden from the world's prying eyes. But enough about Israel. Today, we're focused on Iran's maybe we're not quite sure, attempts to build a bomb. Everyone knows the incredible danger the world would face if irrational theocrats controlled a nuclear arsenal. Except for the 32% who support Rick Santorum. The campaign of regime change here at home marches on, with Republican frontrunners criticizing the president's all options are on the table policy as weak and cowardly. The candidates instead prefer the more hawkish, all painful death options are on the table of flaming hellfire with the fork of vengeance for your eye policy. Though their policies are in fact quite similar. With tough sanctions, oil embargoes, and threats of military action, the international community is on the march, quickly moving from preemptive war to preventive war, to just do it war. Good night, and please no more.
These guys at Fiori.com are so cool. I mean,
they just nail it every time, don't they?
The way that they profit off of war, just bringing it straight out. You think up an excuse, you bomb the heck out of them, you profit from every level of the service, and then you leave them with the central bank and impoverished like everyone else.
Yes, it's called the economic warfare model of doing business.
Be careful. Make sure you get along with the states, or they might bring democracy to you.
Yes.
Coming up on future shows, we are going to be talking about the warmongering that's going on and the big myopia that's happening. But there's a weird story. This is cool. Check this out.
Iran is fighting back against the sanctions.
This is awesome. Check it out.
At the Union of Chambers and Commodity Exchanges of Turkey's Business Forum, the head of Iran's Chamber of Commerce spoke frankly about economic sanctions placed on Iran by Western countries.
It has had economic impacts. Economic impacts on the positive side would be encouraging domestic industry to grow, domestic research to grow. On the negative side, increasing the transaction costs. So doing business becomes a bit more expensive. But there is a stronger impact, and that is the switch and shift in your trade partners.
He says trading partners in China and Turkey have produced well over $56 billion in revenue, and those figures continue to grow. The attempt to stifle doing business with Iran, he adds, isn't going well.
If the target of the sanctions has been the change in political position of Iranian government, that has not been achieved. So if we want to assess the success of the sanctions, it has not achieved its political goal.
In fact, the Union of Chambers and Commodity Exchanges of Turkey previously announced that foreign companies in Turkey financed by Iran in 2011 totaled 590, an increase of 41% compared to the previous year. With figures like this, the chamber head says it's economic logic to find win-win scenarios.
In a long-run thinking for European Union, for example, if they think about their energy security, Iran is the natural partner for Europe with regards to energy security. And I see that kind of future to come. The wisdom should prevail someday.
Sanctions have been placed on Iran by Western countries to target its nuclear program, which they claim has a military aspect to it, a charge Iran denies, saying it is for peaceful purposes only. As the US and European Union attempt to tighten those sanctions, business is proving resilient. Ultimately, the chamberhead says as business and trade continues to shift from Western partners to new Eastern ones, there will also have to be a shift in attitudes to wake up and realize sanctions are simply not working. Fabian Pei, Press TV, Istanbul.
And, you know, there you go.
So put that, you Western imperialists.
It kind of makes me laugh because they talk diplomacy. You're coming from, you say, I've got nuclear weapons, but you're not allowed. That's a diplomatic move. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to get rid of my nuclear weapons, and I'm going to prevent you from getting nuclear power. Okay, but like that, but I have nuclear power.
But we're going to put sanctions on you to cripple your economy. And Iran goes, but our economy is doing pretty good in spite of the sanctions.
Look up the connection here. Watch the history of oil and find out that up till this point, you've only been able to buy oil with American dollars.
Yes.
And then they changed all of that. China, India, Russia said, nah, we're going to use the Chinese currency. We're going to use our native currencies and buy oil. And boy, did that upset the Americans.
Yes, well, you know, once people stop spending petrodollars, the U.S. economy kind of comes to a screeching halt.
Just a little bit. They are ramping up. The big sabers of war are rattling quite a bit, and we're going to run a break here. We're going to be taking taking another break, about 5 minutes. I want to get this in, though, okay, because this is an important, just discussing how things are going, okay?
Yeah. A major international armada of naval power has massed off the Iranian coast for what's believed to be the biggest military exercise ever seen in the region. The American and British-led show of force near the strategic Strait of Hormuz comes as Israel has ramped up its warmongering rhetoric against Iran. And as Sarah Firth explains, there are further indications that a showdown with Iran may be on the cards.
Britain's one of 25 countries taking part in a 12-day exercise in the Strait of Hormuz in the largest war games ever undertaken in the region. Now, this comes as fears grow that Israel is preparing to launch a preemptive strike against Iran's alleged covert nuclear weapons program. Now, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has said that Iran's 6 to 7 months away from having 90% of what it would need to create an atomic bomb. Now, these are claims that Iran vehemently denies, and they've also warned that they will retaliate across the region were they to come under attack. Now, here in Britain at the same time, the former Liberal Democratic Defence Minister Nick Harvey has claimed that he was fired in the recent cabinet reshuffle to avoid a damaging coalition split over a preemptive strike on Iran. Now, he's reported to have told friends that he was fired in that reshuffle to allow the Deputy Prime Minister to sign up to an Israeli-US preemptive strike, and that his criticisms of Israel's actions could prove embarrassing for the coalition. Well, this comes on the back of continued concerns here that these war games and the recent statements are all signs that Israel and Iran are edging ever closer to the brink of war.
Sorry to bring you the bad news, folks, but the Americans and the Anglos are getting just a little bit crazy. I guess they just want to bomb somebody, make some more money.
You know, it's offensive that this story isn't being carried. China issued a major statement. One of its major generals stepped out last year and said a strike against Iran is a strike against our sovereign oil sources, and we will retaliate globally. And the Chinese general had no qualms at saying, we will clean your clock.
Exactly.
That's a story that's not covered underneath the Canadian news whatsoever. The biggest joke of all, Peter Mansbridge saying that he is bringing you a story about the international war developments. A preemptive strike? Asinine in the extreme. They're
right.
bringing us World War III, and not one Christian is standing in the street saying it should not occur.
That's right. I mean, it's just crazy.
Oh, man. But you know what? We have music.
And dancing. And it's Friday.
Oh, we'll be right back, okay? Just bear with us and don't get too worried, because there is a solution to all of this, and we'll be back in about 2 minutes to talk about it. It's Radio Free Canada. Thanks for joining us.
Days are long and the nights are longer. I get weaker as the need gets stronger. I'm a prisoner of my own device. There's always something here and there to entice. Once I had it, now a vice. Nothing comes without its price. At the end of the line, end of the line, end of the line, end of the I had enhanced it through my fingers. Now all that I have left is the need that lingers. Once I have it, now a vice. Nothing comes without its price. At the end of the line, end of the line, end of the line, end of the line. Frustration, temptation, I'm feeling I can't resist. Seems to me the only reason why I exist.
Sticking with that F theme, Frozen Ghost right here. Canadian band, end of the line, and a little bit of politics mixed into their lyrics. Listen to the album, and they had something to say.
So that comes out to FCC. Friday, Canadian content.
Wow. Hey, cool. Right on. FCC today. Our CanCon, of course, is whatever we want it to be, because there are a lot of qualified Canadians. And if you're interested in getting your song on Radio Free Canada, we're taking independent artists with material right now. We're going to freely and blatantly promote you.
That's right.
Okay. Right here, Radio Free Canada, starting things off. We're taking a look at the United States losses of freedoms, Monsanto, all those. You got any suggestions, give us a shout on our YouTube webpage. One of the stories that we covered in the United States is shocking. To finish off the show today.
My God. I was from the serious to the ridiculous.
Okay, this is crazy.
This is
crazy
crazy.
time. Okay, this is insane.
An Eagle Point man who gained national attention for collecting rainwater is now behind bars.
Gary Harrington was sentenced to 30 days in jail for creating 3 illegal reservoirs on his former property, then using them to store rainwater and snowmelt. Newswatch 12's Danielle Craig has more on the battle.
With a kiss and a wave, Gary Harrington begins his 30-day sentence behind bars. This comes a month after the Eagle Point man was convicted on 9 counts, all related to the unauthorized use of water.
Did you do anything wrong?
The county administrator does not have an oath of office. No, I didn't. We've been pounding the county.
Harrington, for decades, has been collecting rain and snowmelt in 3 artificial reservoirs on his land.
2 of the dams are about 10 feet high. A third dam is almost 20 feet high, and those dams are constructed across channels.
All of that water collected from rainfall and snowmelt on Harrington's property on Crowfoot Road.
Landowners of Oregon have the property right to the water that falls from the sky on their land. Absolute right.
But the Oregon Water Resources Department says all water in Oregon is public.
If it were not for those dams, that water would run off the property and eventually would add to the flow of Big Butte Creek.
And the Oregon Water Resources Department says that's another problem. It says that's because back in the 1920s, a state law was drawn up only allowing water rights from Big Butte Creek to the city of Medford.
Almost all of our streams that you see, or you could almost say all of the water that you see in streams today, started out as rainwater.
But several people disagree. More than 50 supporters gathered in front of the Jackson County Jail, supporting Harrington and what they believe is a constitutional right.
What I know of Gary, he's a solid citizen. He's 65 years old, and he's not breaking the law. It's the government that's breaking the law. So I think that's what we're supporting, is the rule of law.
Harrington sold his land just last month, and now he's sitting behind bars.
Bring it to light. Let's bring it into the light. And if it takes me going into jail, it'll be worth it.
And standing by his belief, rain or shine. In Medford, Danielle Craig, Newswatch 12.
Along with a month in jail, Jackson County Circuit Judge has ordered Harrington to drain the ponds and pay $1,500 in fines. The Oregon Water Resources Department says if you wish to collect public water for your own use, you must obtain a water rights permit. However, there are some exceptions, including one for collecting precipitation that gathers on an artificial impervious surface like a rooftop from rain barrels.
The Americans throwing people in jail for collecting rainwater.
Yes, but Portland is right now in the midst of a fight to prevent fluoridation of their city water supply.
Remember, fluoride is not good for your water, but the United States has got major municipalities right across the board. But this thing about collecting rainwater, this is right out of the crazy pill category.
What's next? They're going to charge you for the air you breathe?
Probably working on it right now, but that's why we're here. We're here to remind you activism is winning. We are starting a municipal sustainability project right here at Radio Free Canada. We're urging you to do the same thing. And make sure you join us for Monday for our Mock Harper Monday segments. And, of course, news about Christy Clark defeating democracy in British Columbia.
Don't forget, democracy begins with you. Get out there, get active, make a difference. Tag, you're it.
And I am Darren Howard.
And I am Robert Nisbet.
You've been tuned into Radio Free Canada. We'll be back again on Monday. Thanks again for joining us. Now get a sign and get the conversation going. We'll see you soon.